This episode is brought to you by the Kirtland Partnership Committee. For 30 years, they've been dedicated to supporting, growing, and preserving the Kirtland National Security Complex. They work tirelessly to enhance military readiness, foster community partnerships, improve quality of life, and promote economic development right here in New Mexico. Join their mission to ensure that Kirtland remains a cornerstone of national security and a key provider of quality jobs and investment for all of Greater Albuquerque. Together, we can make a powerful impact. Kirtland Partnership Committee, proudly shaping the future of our national security for 30 years. An independent arbitrator has found that CYFD has breached a legal agreement aimed at reforming the agency. With more on what this means, I'm joined by Albuquerque Journal investigative reporter Colleen Heild, who's been following the story. And will the sixth time be the charm for the paid family and medical leave bill? We'll have to wait to find out, but Albuquerque Journal assistant business editor Megan Gleason stops by to talk about why advocates are so confident it could pass this time around. And a New Mexico breakfast staple is going to cost an extra buck because eggs are costing a lot more. Albuquerque Journal business editor Ryan Botel stops by to tell us what restaurant will be affected and what customers can expect. It's Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. I'm Gino Gutierrez, and I'll have more on these stories in a few moments, plus a look at the Journal's other headlines and the weather forecast coming up on the leading news. The Children, Youth, and Families Department has breached its obligation to implement reforms aimed at improving the lives of children taken into state custody. That's according to an independent arbitrator who has imposed new remedies to combat, quote, irreparable harm caused by the state's noncompliance. With more on this story, I'm now joined by Albuquerque Journal investigative reporter Colleen Heild. Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Sure, thanks for having me.
So, Colleen, this independent arbitrator has ruled that CYFD has breached its obligation under the 2020 Kevin S. settlement agreement. What is he alleging here?
He's saying that CYFD has failed to make progress in hiring social workers, in retaining social workers, in recruiting foster families, and all that they've been supposed to do over the last 4 years.
And Colleen, you laid it out right there. It seems like the department is just facing a lot of issues.
They are, and what has happened in this decision is that there's a legal hammer here that if they don't comply, the other side can take them to court. So this has given hope to child welfare advocates and others that are concerned about CYFD living up to its responsibilities.
And Colleen, the department has made improvements. They've done job fairs, they've implemented better training, they've even started a new foster family program. But despite this, the arbitrator has found that these steps are still insufficient to a meaningful progress, emphasizing the need for a robust, coordinated approach rather than piecemeal efforts.
Right, and that's why he set up a remedial order in which he's imposing specific tasks and putting deadlines on them. Many of those deadlines are just in the next few months.
And Colleen, the arbitrator has also proposed creating an Office of the Ombudsman within CYFD to address barriers to workforce and foster home development. What is he looking to accomplish with that?
Right. He hasn't gone as far as advocating the ombudsman idea, but he wants to know more about it, wants to know if it's successful in states like ours. So he's asking these two national experts to what their opinions are. But I think that this all means that the governor may be getting closer and the state may be getting closer to having another set of eyes on what CYFD is doing.
So we'll wait to see what happens with CYFD in these reform efforts. But Albuquerque Journal investigative reporter Colleen Heild with the latest. Thanks so much, Colleen.
Thank you.
Will the sixth time be the charm for the Paid Family and Medical Leave Act? That's what we'll find out over the course of the 60-day legislative session. With more on this bill and the story behind it, I'm now joined by Albuquerque Journal assistant business editor Megan Gleason. Megan, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks, Gino.
So, Megan, we've seen 6 iterations of this bill come up to the legislature. What's this latest version looking to accomplish?
Yeah, we've seen the bill a lot, like you said. So this bill would provide 12 weeks of paid parental leave and 9 weeks of paid medical, safe, or military exigency leave, which could eventually increase to 12 weeks. And the way it would do that is by creating a new state fund that would be paid paid for by taxes on employees and employers, but only as long as businesses have more than 5 employees would they have to pay into the fund.
So, Megan, this bill sounds like it would positively impact a lot of people, but that really begs the question, why has it not passed yet?
Yeah, one of the main concerns is the tax that it would place on employees and employers, especially small businesses. And kind of stemming from that concern as well is, can you replace those employees when they're taking time off?
All real legitimate questions when you look at the grand scheme of things. That kind of speaks a little bit into our next question, the concerns of small businesses, but not just them, but childcare providers as well, with the implications of what this bill would do.
Yeah. And I talked with Melissa Scott, who owns and directs Pando Little School in Albuquerque, and she saw both sides really was that, yes, I want my staff to have more time off, but also in childcare, you have to be licensed in very specific ways. So if her staff is taking time off, she has to find workers who are licensed appropriately to cover that staff, and that's really difficult to do in an area that's already understaffed.
And Megan, there's also some broader systematic issues in childcare that could affect the rollout of this bill. Things like staff burnout, inadequate leave policies, low wages. These are all things that could be exacerbated.
Yeah. With Scott specifically, her childcare business is funded by the state, and she's saying that if this were to pass, the state would really need to step up in how it funds childcare. So increasing the dollars that it's sending to childcare facilities, and also allowing for more flexibility in how employers can hire and train workers.
So, Megan, we touched on it at the start. This bill has gone through a lot of different iterations. It's never passed, but supporters are saying that it has evolved significantly through collaboration. But what kind of collaboration are they talking about, and why do they seem so confident it could pass this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's been 6 years. It's been on the table since 2019, but time and time again, bill sponsors and advocates of the bills have sat down with business leaders and said they've had meaningful conversations. They've adapted the bill time and time again. For example, this year, the military exigency leave, it's come back as opposed to not having that in a prior version of the bill. And they say this is the time to do it. And, also notably, it is Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's last 60-day session. And so there does feel like a kind of a more pressure to get it through this time around while she's in office.
So we will definitely find out if the sixth time is the charm for this bill. Albuquerque Journal Assistant Business Editor Megan Gleason with the latest. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thanks.
If you like hearing all of the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal here on the Leading News, consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal. You can check our show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription and keep up with all the latest news from New Mexico's leading news source. A New Mexican breakfast staple is going to cost an extra $1 because eggs are costing a lot more. Starting on Thursday, Blake's Lotaburger will impose a $1 surcharge on menu items containing eggs due to a national egg shortage. With more on this story, I'm now joined by Albuquerque Journal business editor Ryan Botel, who's been following it. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. What's the latest on this?
Yes, so Blake's announced today that starting on Thursday, any of its menu items with eggs in it is going to cost $1 more due to an ongoing egg shortage.
So Ryan, Blake's is saying that this additional $1 cost is temporary, correct?
So that's what Blake's is saying, is that it's temporary while there's this supply chain issue. And we've all seen it if you've been in a supermarket in recent weeks, I believe. You'll see those signs that were either increasing the price of eggs or some grocery stores are limiting how many eggs consumers can buy at a time.
And Ryan, what impact will this have on Blake's menu items?
Well, it's not having any impact on its menu items per se. They're still going to have their, green chili cheeseburgers, breakfast burritos, and whatnot. But the products with eggs are going to cost $1 more, and it's really just basic supply and demand. There's an avian flu strain that's circulating the country, and it's a highly deadly version of the avian flu, which has been around for 30 years. But when this flu infects a flock, farmers, growers, they're in some cases having to euthanize entire flocks of chickens, which is then causing this egg shortage that's increasing prices across the whole country.
So a little extra cost for anybody picking up a Blake's breakfast burrito or breakfast sandwich here in the next few days. Albuquerque Journal business editor Ryan Botel with the latest. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Gino.
Dr. Mike Richards has been named the Executive Vice President of UNM Health Sciences and the CEO of UNM Health System, effective on February 1st. University President Garnet Stokes praised his leadership and the positive momentum he's brought to clinical research and educational efforts. Richards, who has been with UNM for 25 years, was chosen without a national search due to strong community support and has proven success as interim leader. His contract runs through June 2029 with an annual salary of $850,000. Richards plans on focusing on bolstering New Mexico's healthcare workforce and securing funding to expand the medical school, continuing efforts he initiated last summer. His extensive experience includes serving as Senior Vice President for Clinical Affairs, Interim Dean of the School of Medicine, and Chair of Emergency Medicine. And in response to dangerously cold weather, Mayor Tim Keller announced the addition of 100 shelter beds to help Albuquerque's homeless population. Emergency transport services have been overwhelmed, with only 2 city vans available to respond to calls. Charity Hamlin waited 5 hours for a ride to a shelter. City officials acknowledged gaps in the system and pledged to approve access as freezing temperatures persist. Looking for something to do today? Gardening with native plants is taking place at the Wantabo Public Library from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Karaoke Thursdays is happening at Imperial Drive from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And an acrylic pour focused on bloom and flowers is happening at the Grove Art Space from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast. Today you can expect sunny skies with a high near 37, and this evening mostly clear with a low around 9. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. For the leading news, I'm Gino Gutierrez.